Welcome to Book by Source. I'm your speaker, Charlie. Today, we are going to explore the idea of where do thoughts come from. I recently had someone ask me, where do I think thoughts come from? And it really made me curious about what everyone else thinks. Okay, so I'm going to share my perspective and then I hope that you will share yours. So let's get into it. Thoughts do not belong to us, period. So I have this vision of this concept where I believe that we all exist within the void. And you can call it source, you can call it universe, you can call it Gaia, whatever feels correct for you. But I have this idea that we all exist within the void. And in the void is everything that is manifested and unmanifested. And that includes thoughts. So within this void, we all become a manifested thing by vibrating at a certain frequency. I exist at a certain frequency, you exist at a certain frequency, and we can also call this our state of being. So, from my perspective, when we are talking about thoughts, thoughts also vibrate at a certain frequency. And those thoughts, depending on what frequency they vibrate at, depends on what thoughts we are receptive to, what thoughts we attract into our energetic field. So these thoughts are dependent on our state of being, our emotions, our presence, um, our awareness, and things of that sort, right? Will determine what thoughts we receive. And the reason why I believe this is because I used to often say, like, I used to feel like my thoughts come out of nowhere. I'm just like when a thought comes to me sometime, and you let me know too, like when thoughts come to you, do you ever feel like where the fuck that came from? Where did that come from, right? I wasn't thinking about anything, and yet a thought just came to me. And so for me, that means that we are receptors, okay? We are receiving information. And so where's that information coming from? In my opinion, you can call it universal mind, you can call it the void, like I call it, or whatever you want. But we are all connected to this thing. We are all connected to source. We are all connected to the void. And therefore, we all receive information from it. And so I believe that some of that information we receive is our thoughts, and that includes ideas. And another way you can test this out or think about it is like, how many times have you heard people say that they had that idea and someone else actually executed on the idea? That's because I believe we're all plugged into the same source. We're all plugged into this void that provides us with information. And like some of us can get the same information at the same time. Doesn't mean that we're all going to act on the information. And so when I sit and ponder, because your girl is an explorer, she is curious. I like to think about things and consider what if, or consider what else is possible. And so for me, I believe that our thoughts don't belong to us. And that's why I don't take my thoughts personal. I don't give them that much weight. And I also encourage other people, don't take your thoughts so seriously. Don't let it determine what you believe is your truth, because a lot of times you will receive thoughts that are not reflections of your truth, that are not reflections of your general state of being or your dominant state of being. But because you are connected to the void, because you are connected and plugged into source, right, you can receive any of the possibilities of thoughts that are manifested. And so, and my belief is just like, don't take any of it serious. Because when the thoughts come through, you can do one of two things. You can engage with it, or you can just let it flow through. And you will notice that when you allow your thoughts to just flow through, they just move on. Nothing happens. That's it. But when you actually engage with your thoughts, that's when they start, where energy where attention goes, energy flows. That's basically what happens. You keep that thought activated. The same thing happened with emotions, right? When emotions come, remember, emotions are spontaneous. So just like I think a lot of our thoughts are. So when emotions come, you can either engage and continue to fuel that emotion, or you can let it go. Scientists say, I'm not really big on research, but in this case, let's talk about it. I think scientists say that emotions stay for approximately, I think it's 90 seconds, right? Whatever the amount is, it's not a lot. And right, a lot is relative. Um, sorry, I'm looking at my puppy. Um, but scientists say that, emotions don't stay more than 90 seconds. And so the reality is a lot of times we are actually fueling our emotions. And I remember I used to feel like like I move on really quick from things. I am not a person who sits in emotions for long periods of time. I just don't experience my emotions for long periods of time. And what I realized was, if I wanted to stay mad about something, I actually had to feed the thoughts. I had to keep thinking the thoughts to keep my emotions like high. In order to keep my emotions angry or whatever else, I actually had to keep feeding it. But the minute I stopped feeding it, it would leave. So it would move on. And so I always encourage people when I talk about things like this, whether it's the thoughts or emotions, to actually observe it for yourself. Start paying attention to your thoughts. Start paying attention to emotions. See what happens when you don't engage with your thoughts. See what happens when you don't engage with your emotions. Notice how they just move on. Notice how they just flow on through, because they don't belong to us. They are just part of the experience we are having. And so the message here is to encourage you not to get so caught up with your thoughts. A lot of times, the thoughts we receive are actually not reflections of our truth. They are just part of the possibilities. And so you get to decide not to engage in it, not to get caught up in it, not to allow it to determine your worth, your mood, your vibes, or anything like that, because it's going to move on. So that's the gist of my message. Let's see. Let me make sure I got everything. Yeah. So I already said that, like, thoughts aren't necessarily created by you, they're received by you. The more attuned and still you are, the more clearly you can receive high quality or aligned thoughts. When you're thinking, you might actually be tuning in, like adjusting the dial on a radio, and images, phrases, or ideas arrive. And the reason why I wrote that is because another thing is, sometimes we say, I was thinking, when in reality we weren't thinking. A thought just came. And I realized that now, when I am thinking, when I'm actually sitting there and I ask myself a question and I'm waiting for an answer from myself, a lot of times is literally like I'm tuning into something. Like, if I was to ask myself a question right now, I would actually, like, right now I'm not thinking. These are just thoughts coming out of me. There's no thinking happening. This is just flowing out of me right now, right? But if I was to actually sit here, ask a question, I will actually have to wait a little while, whatever that looks like, and wait for the information to start coming in. But how that looks for me is either an image or a feeling I get, and then I actually have an understanding of whatever it is I'm thinking about, right? I got to wait for the thoughts to actually come through. And some people might call that channeling, right? And I think that that's all part of this bigger picture. I feel like when we slow down and really pay attention to the process as humans, we will recognize that we don't really, I know for me, I don't really think too much. Thoughts come to me all the time, and then I start to process them. And when I actually want to think, I ask myself a question, but I also have to wait for the information to come through. And it very much comes off as if I'm channeling information, as if I'm tuning into information. So I wonder how many other people feel like that is their experience, or how many of us actually slow down to see what the actual process is. But my main thing specifically about this topic is that your thoughts are not necessarily a reflection of your truth. And so it's really important that we don't take them so personal and we don't attach to them as if they are ours. A lot of times they don't belong to you. They're a part of the collective mind, the void, whatever you want to call it. And it's just one of many possibilities of thoughts that can come to you. And what thoughts you receive is impacted by your state of being, right? Your mood, your presence, and things of that sort. And so that is definitely something to consider and keep in mind. So yeah, frequency, mood, presence, openness determines what from the field you become receptive to. It just is what it is. Like I'm telling y'all, I highly recommend you pay attention to your experience. And when you slow down and start paying attention to your experience, you will realize how magical we are as humans and also how much more control we have over our experience than we give ourselves credit to for. A lot of times we judge what's happening as good or bad, this or that, but the reality of it is like this is just part of the human experience. The only true value of anything is whatever value you give it. You may see something and think that's bad. I may look at the same thing and be like, okay. I like I said, I was talking about this yesterday with a friend, and I didn't understand. Like I understood but didn't really get why like her thoughts were a big deal, cuz I'm just like don't be hard on yourself because emotion thoughts are just thoughts. Like you're not in control. They don't belong to you. They are not a reflection of your of like whether or not you're doing better or worse, whether or not you're further along on your journey or not. Like the fact that you are aware of them is everything. Like that's already a step in the right direction. The fact that you're not spiraling with these thoughts is a big deal, right? Like we gotta take our wins where we can. You know what I mean? So many of us are. I know myself where I was on autopilot for so long, living this life just on go mode. And when I started slowing down and paying attention, you start realizing how much of what you carry and how much of what you identify with don't belong to you. And one of those things is our thoughts. Like they're just not the value we give our thoughts is just way too much. I know that when I think about things or I witness other humans, I'm just like, the reason why I have so much empathy for other humans is because I'm having a human experience and I know what it's like. And I know that there's some things that happen that you have no control over, but at the same time, you believe is a reflection of your truth. You believe is a reflection of you. And it's like, it's not, right? Like, I might have thoughts that are not the kindest of thoughts, but I know that that's not a reflection of me. I know that that's just part of the many possibilities within the universal mind, within the void. And as long as I don't engage with it, as long as I don't allow my thoughts to dictate my actions that are not in my highest regard, right? Or not in alignment with the expression of human I want to be, then who cares, right? My thoughts are not determinant of my worthiness, of my kindness, of the quality of human I have decided to be in this lifetime. And I have learned over time to be kind to myself, be kind to my mind, because I know that it's a portal. I know that it's a receiver, and I can't determine what comes and what doesn't come. Like, that's not always up to me. It's not always up to me. And I extend that to everyone else, right? It's not about your thoughts in and of itself. It's about what you do with those thoughts. So I want to encourage you all to consider this possibility that your thoughts are not your own, that they do not belong to you, that they are one of many possibilities, and that a lot of time, whatever thoughts come into you are just a reflection of the frequency in which you may be vibrating with at the time. And so you get to decide whether or not you want to feed that energy, or you can just let it flow through. You received it, don't engage with it, let it pass along to wherever else, to whatever the next recipient, holder, container wants to engage with it. But you can just let it flow through you. We are all part of the same consciousness. We are all part of the same source. And so the energy is just vibrating, is just flowing through all of us at different frequencies. And so you will get access to things that aren't necessarily reflections of your truth. And you also can just observe it and let it pass through. So, with that being said, I'm just here to remind you that your thoughts do not belong to you. They are not always a reflection of your truth. So, try not to take it so personal. And if you have any questions, any ideas, if you want me to talk more about that or elaborate on any area of what I talked about, let me know. Again, this is my series called Book by Source, and I am your speaker, Charlie.